I didn't even realize that Delta 8 THC story that I put up on my one of the most recent When I'm Not Podcasting episodes was going to go ahead and take off so much like it did. But thanks for finding the show and listening to it. And subscribe to the show as you do on YouTube, youtube.com/JBRASCO951. Another story we're going to talk about, Benzinga.com actually put out a story. You got to go around the paywall to get to it, but I put the link into the description. How many legal weed states before we get federal reform? We may be there already. So Andrew Ward writes this story. And on the Blunt Business program that I host on Cannabis Radio, on a couple of the future episodes I have on the program, I mentioned the story that came from Bloomberg.com. And I want to bring that point over here real quick. It just the fact of the matter is, they took some information from a website called Open Secrets. And $27 million from the beer, wine, and liquor industry were spent on lobbying efforts in Washington, D.C. Big Tobacco spent $30 million on lobbying. The cannabis or marijuana industry spent $4 million. So, with everybody being cautiously optimistic about legalization, now I say this on the cannabis radio side, I'm going to bring it on When I'm Not Podcasting right now. This is what I think. You know, everybody feels like we have a new administration. This absolutely is going to be a no-brainer that legalization should come right in. Financial changes should be made so that banking standards can be switched around so that cannabis companies can actually work with banks and financial institutions. Got it. And same thing for decriminalization, you know, criminal reform, things like that. I got it. But you have to understand that you can't just take away a politician's track record, their opinion, or their platform previously on this. Now, there might have been a platform that was put out beforehand saying that there would be decriminalization. But, you know, there's a lot of people in the cannabis industry that feel like this is a no-brainer. New administration would go ahead and pass it. Well, I think it would have mattered. It would have passed as long as the bill got presented to be passed. And right now it's going to be used as a bargaining chip, obviously. But I think more importantly than anything else, in the situation with the pandemic, when economic issues are still at an issue right now, and you have other things that are going on where you could really use an inflection of cash and tax revenue and things like that. Well, obviously the politicians will want that. They want another place to go ahead and get paid. Well, and why not the cannabis industry? Why not the marijuana industry? That's the idea. So $4 million isn't going to cut it. And what I was saying on the Blunt Business program is that, you know, regardless of the lobbying efforts, the convincing of the politicians in Washington, D.C. that they need to go ahead and put the bill forward, whether it's the States Act or the MORE Act, yeah. But, you know, are they going to really do it unless they're getting paid for it? Like, that's the only thing they're going to listen to, if at all, will be money. And I'm being apolitical here. I feel like it doesn't matter. Politicians just seem to be are just going to go and get paid off, and you're lucky if the money's going to go anywhere. Like even the mafia had issues with politicians. Just saying, you know, and that's what we're happening here. So if you need to go ahead and you know bribe a politician, which is the common thing, then that's what needs to be done. But anyway, let me go into the story from Andrew Ward and then let him go ahead and explain his point. Now, in the same article from the Bloomberg that I got, TheVerge.com tried to get a comment about what the efforts on legalization or decriminalization was going to be, and they got no comment. Well, Benzinga was told that while reform may be on the horizon, there's concern that lawmakers may continue to linger on the matter despite a change of power in Washington, D.C. Now, they ask how many states does it take? Because we have now 39, and I think 40 is going to be, we're going to have 40 states once Virginia and the governor there, Ralph Northam, signs a bill after the state legislature had state and house approved cannabis legalization. So now the federal government is not obligated to act on any measure despite the views of the states, but a compelling case is being made with cannabis reform. So Congress is taking action on smaller pieces of legislation, citing the Safe Banking Act and a bill focused on research. And the word is that the more states legalize cannabis, the greater the pressure will be for the federal government to follow suit. Right, but I still think something has to happen here where even if all the states are in play, you know, they just need to have something where there can be interstate commerce and financial access. Like give that in, and let's work on the decriminalization. And when it comes to criminal justice, when it comes to decriminalization of marijuana, then that's what the First Step Act was supposed to be about, I believe. So anyway, cannabis initiatives succeeded in every state in which they were on the ballot, including the most conservative states in the union. And this is from Safira Galoub, executive director of the National Cannabis Roundtable. That she says there might be enough states to push for federal reform, citing recent election results that 5 states passed reform as a recent example of the momentum. And also currently considering medical cannabis legalization is South Carolina and Alabama. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer's recent comments show that the new Congress is aiming to build off the momentum of passing the MORE Act in the House last year, which I think is just a symbolic gesture because it was never going to make the Senate. The question now is, what reforms can be made law and by what legislative mechanisms over the next 2 years? So a comparison often being made about cannabis reform is that of same-sex marriage, which gained momentum in the early 2000s, and the belief among proponents is that a state-level shift in policy compels national action. Now, both issues are considered social causes, garnering an evolving public support. And that said, same-sex marriage's final determination came from the Supreme Court case Obergefell versus Hodges in 2015, guaranteeing same-sex couples the right to marry. In cannabis's case, it has not made any inroads to the Supreme Court, including the court's 2020 decision to not hear a case challenging the DEA's classification of cannabis as Schedule 1. So the legality of cannabis won't likely occur in the Supreme Court, but could soon in Congress. And some believe action could come in the not-too-distant future. And the Globe recently highlighted recent activity from Schumer, Senator Cory Booker, and Ron Wyden. Globe said that the trio will be releasing a major cannabis reform bill, and the clear signal that legislators are taking action now. Now, if I'm right, I believe the Cory Booker bill that he originally put out was for decriminalization more than it was anything else. Meanwhile, Cory Gardner and Elizabeth Warren put out the States Act, which Cory Gardner now is no longer in office, but I mean, that bill could be tweaked and be presented once again. But for whatever reason, it's not. And we have to continue to wait. So now, experts are saying that cannabis advocates must keep up public visibility to keep encouraging lawmakers to take action. No, they need to put money down. You got to lobby. You got to pay some money. You got to pay the piper. There's no other way around it. So if tobacco and liquor are able to go and spend $27 and $30 million respectively, or the other way around, then cannabis is going to have to match that amount. I think that's what really has to happen. Or they're going to have to get the idea that that's going to be coming to them. So I don't know where that money's going to be coming from. But I really believe that people need to start realizing that it's just this talk and encouragement that's not going to get it over the finish line. The money's going to. So it's just time to go and realize that needs to happen. Now, again, we understand there's an untapped national economy, job creation, tax revenue. And the economy alone is enough to compel many to support legalization. Well, put the money where the action is. And remember, the most important reason why the money needs to come in is because the level of investment is going to come in after the fact. But then also, by doing this, it will open the door to other actors that might come in for a different reason, and the industry will change altogether because it will become corporatized, it will become a major sector, and it will get normalized. So the heydays of the Wild West kind of things that are going on, it will kind of change. And we'll see how cannabis does react in that sense, the industry, how it reacts to it. But, what has to happen here is that the influence has to be money driven, not just worth here. I don't think you can just kind of act like a nonprofit and hopefully having something that can just come in and say, okay, let's go and get this pushed out. I don't think it can be done. Like, I understand there's issues, medical access, social injustice, and other things that are going on that people should be concerned about. But again, the politicians only understand the language of money. That's how it comes down to. I'm going to leave it there. I'll talk to you next time.